get into was some news articles that I've come across over the last year that kind of get into the environmental theme. And these are, again, the attempt here is to be non-political. The attempt here is to simply be factual, and the attempt is also to be a little bit more positive. And so the first one I wanted to share actually stems back to the very first No Planet B Jamboree that we ever did. We shared that Vanuatu, the island country, was granted the ability to basically bring a lawsuit against the carbon producing countries to say that they're now in trouble because of the negligence of these other consuming countries. And so now that actually came to be. So here is an article that gets at when they were at the World Court. It's the International Justice Court. And so they are seeking legal response to climate change. The advisory opinion could influence global climate lawsuits, and the opinion, they were back in December of 2024. There were 2 weeks of hearings, and they're going to release their decision sometime in 2025. It did say in this article from December or January, early 2025. It's already mid-April, and nothing yet. I did double check that. But in essence, this court, while not legally binding, is kind of agreed as being, it's enough different countries involved and enough smart people involved that they feel like they rule on something and most of the world pays attention. Not so sure about this moment in time, but in general, the arc of justice bends, the arc of basically everything bends towards justice. So eventually we'll get there. But thought this was just super interesting. The entire country is saying, we've been put in this position not because of our own, and we're losing our homeland, and people are getting sick and dying. So they're able to kind of put this out there and see how it kind of gets viewed from a legal precedent standpoint. So it'll be interesting to keep eyes on that as it goes forward. The next article I'm actually going to stop sharing for a second is this book that came out. It is called Not the End of the World: How We Can Be the First Generation to Build a Sustainable Planet. And it's by the author Hannah Ritchie. This is a review of that book because it is a decent read. I didn't read it, but I thought it would be important to kind of share. And I do want to get it now that I know more about it. So this is the Guardian's review of it. And really what the Guardian goes on to say is that it is mainly Hannah Ritchie is using data to kind of prove that there's some good trends out there and some things are heading in the right direction. But the predominant theme is that it's still going to take all of the massive effort that's currently ongoing to see it all the way through, and nothing to happen like wars or stuff like that. And so that's already been kind of hit hard because of what's going on in the Ukraine, in the Middle East, and all that stuff. So those things are obviously massive contributors to the problem. But then even just other stuff needs to get changed and switched, and we need to do more to get there. But I guess what the book tries to point at is that what we are doing is starting to make a difference. So they're kind of saying, hey, keep it up, good job, good work. But we have other kind of political changes that are ongoing and things that are maybe starting to no longer be supported. So worth a read, they had said, but they did say at points it's kind of frustrating because it's somewhat ignoring the reality of certain elements that just are difficult for the human race to get on board with. That we've gotten this far is awesome, but obviously to push it more further, they almost went on to the fact of kind of saying we do need people who are thinking the positive thoughts like this author, but we also need some more pessimists who are painting the darker picture so to kind of keep people moving in the right direction. So definitely check out Not the End of the World, but then also check out the review by The Guardian. The next one I wanted to share is this was just a neat one where it's 15 climate tech startups to watch. This is there was a number of these, but I found this one was just kind of interesting. And so what I thought was cool to see here is that there are these innovative tech startups that are trying to design climate-centric technologies, like we talked about with Paige. If we need innovation and technology to help us with this, then these are the people who are hopefully going to make it happen. I guess one of the drawbacks here is they need to prove to make money for them to get more funding. But if that's the game, then that's the game that needs to be played. So the encouraging part here is these are 15 organizations that you can learn about. And so I thought was the other part that was interesting because it'll take us to the last article I want to share. The top one is a company called Carbon Capture, and it's this organization that's trying to capture through direct air capture (DAC) technologies. Basically, it's trying to pull the CO2 out of the air and then sequester it underground. That's kind of what this last article is about. It's simply just asking, can that actually be effective? And so here is can pulling carbon from thin air slow climate change? It's a really fascinating article because what it kind of gets into is it's already a technology that's used on a very small scale. If you think about submarines or like spaceships or like the people who are orbiting the Earth, you need to deal with the CO2 that they're exhaling so that they have enough air. So they have ways to capture it and get it out of there so that they're breathing more oxygen. And so it's the type of thing that can happen, but obviously doing it on the gargantuan scale of the planet, it's some totally different ballgame. And so you can see here, these are some earlier kind of attempts at helping by saying a power plant can take its own CO2 and take care of it. But that doesn't deal with the people who are not already dealing with it themselves and all of the other elements. So here you have, this is that DAC type facility where it's sucking it in and dealing with it, whether it's from a power plant or vehicles or anything else. So those are some interesting things. And there was a really fascinating kind of diagram back here where it gets into the really elaborate way that it can work and be on an ongoing and constant basis with lime that turns into calcium oxide and then back around to lime again. So anyway, it's a really fascinating thing. And again, this is where scientists are amazing and brilliant and engineers are committed to these kinds of solutions. So, that's who we need to kind of step up in this moment in time and create things that look like this and whatever the next generation of this is. But these are those DAC type machines and facilities that are helping with kind of reversing that trend. So anyway, some articles to look at and consider and maybe read. And again, having the open mind to learning more about this stuff and, finding other ways. There's ways to convert your energy power that gets supplied to your home very easily to switch it to wind and solar, and so you just simply go on to the website and say, switch my energy providing to this one, and boom, it's done. One or two people doing it isn't going to make the difference, but like we talked about before, if everyone is on board with it, not only can it become an impact, but it can also maybe create innovation and reduce pricing and better efficiencies and all that good stuff. So just encourage us all to kind of learn. And that's why I love these organizations that are tabling. Like if you happen to own a restaurant and you come to this event on Saturday and you get to meet Lisa and learn all about her packaging and you make that difference and that change, think about that conversion, that one restaurant. Now take that to 10 restaurants or 100. And that starts to be where we can make some difference here. And even if you don't believe in the world impact, having trash that behaves better is just a good thing. You're going to not have to deal with it down the road because we might run out of space or all that other stuff. So there's nothing but good things to be happen from these different things. But